Hi there guys, and welcome to licklibrary.com. My name's Tom Quayle, and today we're going to be doing a lesson on phrasing. And by phrasing in this context, I mean improvised phrasing or improvisational phrasing. And this is something that a lot of guitar players find quite weird to practice. When someone says to you, I want you to practice your phrasing, or do you practice your phrasing, it's kind of a weird thing to kind of think about. Phrasing seems to be this kind of mystical thing that people either have or they don't. So the art of phrasing is basically creating music or phrases that make sense or are musical, and people say, you know, such and such a player has great phrasing. And usually that kind of implies that they have like a vocal quality to their playing. They play cool, interesting musical lines, and they have great rhythmic control. And it seems like a big topic to kind of practice, but what I'm going to do today is to introduce some ideas to you that you can use in order to practice your phrasing. Now, the first of these is basically going to be based around breaking things up into certain amounts of time. Now, normally in music, we break things into beats and bars. That's the general way that we kind of explain time in music. So, very simple concept for you. I just want you to play for a bar and then rest for a bar. One of the big things that guys find when they try and improvise is they tend not to leave enough space. And actually, space is the thing that allows your phrasing to breathe and be much more musical. So you'll often find that a lot of guys will improvise, and I'll just do something in kind of an A minor 7 kind of vibe, and they'll just keep playing. And there's no space in there at all. It's just constant streams of notes. It doesn't make any sense. So in order to practice leaving space, you sometimes have to force yourself to do this. You have to force yourself to leave the space. And one way you can do this, which is very, very simple, is just to, as I say, play for a bar and then miss a bar. Don't play anything. And at first this might feel quite strange because you're going to be sort of imbued to kind of play. You're going to want to play some sounds. But if you force yourself to leave that space, you're going to find it becomes and feels more natural after a certain amount of time. So for instance, if I give myself just a general kind of pulse, if I have like 1, 2, 3, 4, I'm just going to play for a bar and then relax. So like an A Dorian kind of feel. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, and 3, 4. 1, 2, and 3, 4. 2 and 3, so on and so forth. Okay, so that space allows my phrasing to breathe naturally. Now I can do anything I want within the context of that playing bar. I can be as creative as I want. I can play long notes, short notes, any kind of rhythms that I like, as long as I stick obviously to the harmony that's implied by my backing track or whatever I've chosen. But it doesn't matter what goes in there, so long as we have the space afterwards. So the first thing I'm going to do, I've got a backing track for you, just based around an A Dorian kind of vibe, similar to what you've just heard. I'm just going to play for a bar, miss a bar, and if you listen to how this imbues a kind of natural sense of space into my phrasing, and it's kind of similar to allowing yourself to breathe. So you just leave a little bit of space. Guitarists don't have to breathe when they play. It's almost become a bit of a cliche this, but guitarists can just play and play and play and play, whereas a horn player has to breathe every now and again. So this allows you to have that kind of natural breathing space. Now, before I do this, just to make you aware, you could get as creative with this as you like. You could leave 2 bars of space. You could play for 2 bars, leave 1 bar of space. You could play for 3 beats, leave a beat of space. You could do anything you wanted, as long as you force yourself to have that space in there. So that's the important part. So here's playing for a bar and leaving some space for a bar, okay? Okay, so that kind of, as you can hear, allows you to have space within your playing. Now, at the moment, it sounds quite forced, because it is forced. The nature of these kind of, as I call them, limitation exercises is that you force yourself to play in a certain way. Now, I would never ever condone that you do this on a gig. Don't think this way on a gig, but what it's actually making you achieve is the ability to do this naturally and subconsciously, so that when it comes time to do the gig, you leave space automatically. You don't find yourself playing and playing and playing and playing. So let's look at some other ways that you can do this. Let's now limit the number of notes you can have in your phrase, so you can leave as much space or as little space as you like, but your phrase has to contain a certain number of notes and sound like it's finished. So let's start with something really simple. Let's take just 3 notes, and we'll say every phrase that you play can only contain 3 notes. And it has to have a natural kind of beginning and ending. So you're thinking more now about, does my phrase resolve well? Does it sound like it's finished? So as an example of this, if I play 3 notes, I could keep those notes long or short. I could have loads of space between the notes or very little space. I could play fast or slow. It's all up to you. The point is that you're trying to be creative with just 3 sounds. Okay, so as a quick example, I could take a phrase like this, just 3 notes, and then I could go, then we might go, followed by 1, 2, 3, then maybe 3, 4, and then. So all of these are 3-note phrases, but the rhythms are all different. I'm not selecting the same 3 notes. You could do that. You could just take 3 notes, the same 3 notes. That might make the exercise a bit easier. But essentially the idea is that you're being creative with just those 3 sounds, okay? The rhythm is entirely up to you. So let's try the same thing again. I'll use the same backing track. This time all my phrases are going to contain 3 notes. Just to be really clear, I'm not playing a bar and leaving a bar this time. The rhythms that I play are entirely up to me. The point is that it's just those 3 notes. Okay, so let's try this. Okay, so 3-note phrases. Now you can hear there's a huge possibility of phrases and rhythms that you could play with just 3 notes. You'll never kind of use up all the possibilities. So if you imagine now you did that with 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 note phrases, all the way up to maybe 9 or even 10 notes, bearing in mind that the more notes you have, the harder it is to keep track of how many notes you've played. So that's something to bear in mind. There's a huge amount of things that you could do with this technique. Now again, being sort of, bear in mind that you don't want to do this on a gig. If you're doing this on the gig, you're not probably, focused on playing, with the band. You don't want to be in practice mode while you're playing on stage. However, again, this is to prepare you so that when you do play live, or you play in a jam or whatever, this stuff comes out naturally. So given enough time, you'll start doing this automatically and be much more in control of your phrasing. So, try both these methods. See if you can take the idea of playing for a bar, leaving a bar, and then take certain numbers of notes, limit yourself to certain numbers of notes within your phrases, and try and be creative with just that number of notes. And this will really help you improve your rhythmic phrasing in general. And the notes will take care of themselves. After all, rhythm is the most important part of any kind of music. So yeah, good luck with your phrasing, good luck with your practice. Hope you find this useful, and I will see you next time.